Right. Are we back? Let me see some chatters say we're back. Dropped frames looks good. Twitch says we're good, although it's reporting a different bitrate than what I'm reporting sending. That's awfully suspicious. Awfully suspicious, but it looks fine. Everything looks like it's back up and going. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. You know, I'm going to just move. I'm just going to move this box that's in my background for some reason. Absolutely no reason to be there. Not that that's any better, but it is what it is. All right, we're back. We're back. We're back. Fantastic. Okay, so hopefully that fixes my internet problems. Let's restart that. Sorry. I don't have much of a better way but then to just restart the little presentation. Welcome, everybody. After those little bit of internet problems, I appreciate all of you showing up and joining me today. I wanted to talk to you first today about how do you value how much your startup is worth? Some of us go about reoccurring revenue or number of users. Some of us instead use the metric of how many companies we can get to offer to buy us in exactly one weekend. Now, before we get there, let's go back and talk about what this company does. If you guys don't know, we're talking about Windsurf. Windsurf is like Cursor, although they would say that they're more like Devin from Cognition, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Windsurf is a lot like your Cursor. It's your agentic AI coding companion, or whatever you want to call it. I don't really love companion, but whatever. It's an AI powered coding IDE. Now, I've always said I don't love the IDEs. I'd much rather an API style thing that I can use with anything. But this is Windsurf. Now, its pricing is a lot more like what Cursor's pricing is now. A while ago, they actually, at April 16th, when Google, or not Google, yeah, Google. When Google first, not Google, silly me. All right. When OpenAI first offered to buy them and was in talks to buy Windsurf, which was actually pretty interesting in and of itself, they updated their plans to be a little bit more clear, because prior to that, there was a ton of confusion around their plans. And now we know what we're talking about. It's a little bit more clear, and Cursor has gone more towards a plan like this now, just a few months later. Now, did Windsurf cause them to go that way? I don't think so, because actually Windsurf made their plans much simpler and clearer than they originally were. Now, originally, I haven't been a huge Windsurf fan. The times that we have tested it, it's not blown my socks off, but we're going to give it a try again here in the near future, just to see what its $15 a month plan, how many 500 prompt credits a month are going to give you on those leading models, just to understand it a little bit better. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this timeline. Now, I want to be clear. They have $82 million in annual recurring revenue, which sounds really good, but it's not very much compared to what they were sold for. So there's obviously a lot of value in the technology that people are trying to buy, and that's one thing that I want to focus on. Now, back in April 16th, OpenAI pins a deal to buy an integrator, which this actually is a very interesting point, because Windsurf really just wraps OpenAI's API. I've never actually seen this happen before in real life, especially for something like $3 billion. That's what they were offering. They were offering $3 billion on April 16th. Now, I guess talks stalled. So they were working on a $3 billion deal to buy Windsurf as a whole, and I guess talks stalled. And that's when there was a love triangle. The love triangle kicked in, and on Friday the 11th of July, Google takes the top talent. Literally, Google took and stripped out all of the top talent, the CEO and founder, the top researchers from their research and development, and got a license to use the rest of their technology. Now, I haven't gotten to see the details of that license. I would actually love to see the details of that licensing agreement, because how long did they get to license it for? Was it a time-based license, or is this an indefinite license? Hopefully it's not an indefinite license. That seems half criminal at this point, but I don't know. But this deal was worth $2.4 billion. $2.4 billion, and it's not even buying the company, just its top tech, or just its top talent, and the license to use their tech. Which is interesting, because as far as I understand, Windsurf itself doesn't have a ton of tech itself, right? Cursor itself has, they have some of their proprietary things on how they talk to the models, how they prompt the models in the back end, which is something we're going to cover more, but they don't really have that much proprietary tech. Their proprietary stuff really lands in how they prompt these other models. So I'm interested in why Google really wanted that, but this was basically a $2.4 billion deal to take their top talent, in my mind. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there, because just 3 days later, on July 14th, that following Monday, Cognition closed its acquisition of the startup's remains. The husk of a startup that remained is now going to Cognition. Now, if you guys don't know what Cognition is the startup that's making Devin. Devin made big splashes because they kind of lied in their marketing at the very beginning, and people like me proved that their demonstration was kind of false. Now, Devin has come through huge strides, and we're definitely going to test it in the AI games this year. If you don't know what the AI games is, we do a very good job, I think, on actually putting AIs through real world paces and learning how to leverage them better. Because in my experience, AIs don't just magically make you faster. You have to learn to actually leverage them in a constructive way. So this was the whirlwind of the Windsurf. I don't know how many millions, I don't know, billions that Cognition paid for the husk of the startup. I mean, this is the rest of their talent. So if you're talking about a talent acquisition, maybe this is quite a bit. I know their top people aren't there, but I know the talent wars for these things are very fierce right now. And so maybe they paid billions for this, just for the talent alone. I don't know what I couldn't find anything on the actual technology license here as well. And I would love to hear what you guys think about this, about the absolute whirlwind that's going on. Do you think this is just the start, or do you think this is the beginning of the end? I feel like historically, you start to see stuff like this. You start to see things like this. And this is, this is just the pinnacle before the dot-com bubble. This is just the pinnacle before the utter collapse. What do you think it is? Do you think it's the latter? Do you think it's the former? I would love to know what you think this type of thing is going on. I also think that this is fascinating just from the stance of this was an integrator. This was a person that uses third-party APIs to build something on top of. It's not, they didn't build frontier models like any one of these other companies are doing. It's not a Claude model. They didn't build their own model. They're really just good prompters, right? Well, congratulations to the entire Cognition, or not Cognition, Windsurf team. It seems like you guys did something right because you guys all got a great payout, and so I'm really happy for you. Good job. That was absolutely ridiculous. Thank you for watching. And if you're watching on YouTube after the fact, go ahead and follow me on Twitch or my YouTube live channel where you can follow me in real time and be here for the chat. What do you guys think? Leave a comment, leave a chat message. Otherwise, let's get on to the rest of our topics today. We got some real kickers. You know, I have one that we're not going to do today. It's MCP is not there yet. I'm going to do a little bit better of a job than I did the first time covering the vulnerabilities around MCP. I feel strongly about this. We need to not use it in production. It's not there yet. It's not tested. And the fact is, there's just so many vulnerabilities around using MCP. We're going to deep dive into it this Friday, whether you wanted to or not. MCP is not there yet. I might stream tomorrow morning too. And the whole reason is the people that deliver where I'm at are like, we're going to deliver at 5:45 in the morning. So I've got to be up at 5:30 in the morning anyhow, because delivery people, it's fantastic. All right. Jack Dorsey dropped his second app in a single week. This man is on a mad spree of app creating fervor. That's the word I was looking for. Exactly. The word I use in every single day sentence is fervor. If you don't know, Jack Dorsey released Sunday. Now, I don't know what this is, testing apps with test flight. I don't know all this Apple weirdness, because in Android, we just go and install the app if we want to install the app. I guess that's not true with an iPad or a Crapple product, but if you're wanting to go test it Sunday, you can go give it a test. But today, we're not actually talking about Sunday, because Sunday, while it sounds fun, we want to talk about AI agentic coding. And one of the things I want to talk to you about is actually going back to BitChat. You know how we talked about, I read the white paper and I didn't dig into the code, but, the encryptions seemed okay, but I wasn't an AI expert and I didn't really dig into it that far. Well, thankfully for us, somebody did go into it, dig into it, and somebody did actually come up with some of the things that we need to be careful about while leveraging AI. So what I want you to do is I want you to be careful when leveraging AI. This is something I always tell my engineers is I'm happy for you to use AI to make you more efficient. But at the end of the day, the code you check in is code you check in. You're giving it your stamp of approval. That means you reviewed it and you're making sure that it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Now, it's not every single day that we all find these problems that we have to deal with. And that's one of the great things is there's already libraries out there to deal with it for us. But let's go ahead and jump into identity is a bit chat challenge. So there was this article. I'm going to drop it in the, I'm going to reload this, drop it in the chat for you all. Identity is a bit chat challenge. That's a bit challenging to state. All right, the intersection of vibe coding and security. So this person at Super Networks is pretty good. I like following a lot of the stuff that they release, and they do a lot around identity. And this is an identity platform, and they came up with a really cool attack on these that I thought we all could learn about, especially since we just talked about the fact that it says it's secure. Is it secure? All right. Many of us have seen glimpses of what agentic generative coding does for security. We see the missteps and sometimes wonder about the shallow bugs that pile on. Config managers that are almost always arbitrary file upload endpoints, glue layers that become bash commands launch as a service, and most frustrating, code generation that's excellent at pretending forward progress has been made when no meaningful change has occurred. One of the most impressive parts of agentic coding is exactly that. How convincing it is by appearance and how easily we're tricked about the depth of substance in the code gen. This is something that we've talked about, is that AI will stare you dead in the eyes and tell you something that's completely wrong. And there's no way to, when a human is making something up, there's tells, there's like, or when they're unsure, my tell is I use the word when I'm thinking. And so there's definitely ways to tell when a human is out of their depth. In some way, and AI just doesn't do this. It's just like, okay, well, I'm going to talk to you about the thermodynamic rocket physics going through the Kepler astrobelt. There's actually this one asteroid that is larger than... See, I could actually do it. I could pass as an AI. Am I? I don't know. In some ways, we extend our trust of people to the... Hey, welcome, chat, by the way. I just saw a bunch of people jumped on. I was streaming to myself just before this. So anyways, welcome to everybody that joined. All right. Sarcastic code parents. Assuming the generative code produced the actual work a human would have probably performed. And I think a lot of the times this comes from the fact that it gets so close so often that it's really easy to believe it. And it does amazing things that you just wouldn't believe possible. And so when it does that, it's easy to take that greater leap of faith. Vibe identity, an obvious flaw. I'm no stranger to E2E breaks, and I've been following along over the past decade. Some of my favorite breaks I have found personally include I actually practice pronouncing this one. Voldenai Oracle against Kenko line and bypass OTR signatures verifying in iCloud keychain, compromising the password sync. I hate these. I absolutely hate having to say those out loud. Most of the time I just read them and I move on. So this morning, when BitChat came up, I took a look through the code and write up some demos. My first thought was, we really don't need another protocol. Okay, isn't that what I said? Do we really need another protocol? But the answer was yes, of course. Many aspects of noise would fit in for finer points around true forward security. But BitChat's most glaring issue is identity. There's essentially no trust auth built in today, so I would not really think about this as a secure messenger. The protocol has identity key system, but it's only decorative as implemented and has misleading security claims. The 32-bit public key gets shuffled around with ephemeral key pairs as an opaque blob. The user verification is unfortunately disconnected from any trust and authentication. These are the hallmarks of vibe code in security. So what do they mean here? So there are a couple mechanisms to do your initial identity, and he gives some examples here: QR code, pre-shared keys, visual fingerprint verification, and third-party vendoring. He does give a caveat to fingerprint verification. We don't need to jump into it because, yeah, he obviously still does not like how Telegram does this, but we're not going to jump into all of those. So the man in the middle attack that he found in BitChat was basically there is a man in the middle attack where Bob shares his key with, I believe is Alice. Bob and Alice is what they goes with. So Bob shares his key with Alice, but BitChat accepts this, but it can't verify the ephemerals belonging to the real Bob. So there's this middle step where those ephemerals can be man in the middle attacked, and somebody can step into this initial handshake and basically pretend to be Bob. So the attacker is pretending to Bob and asks you, Alice, about your favorite secrets. Devastatingly, you leak it to the adversary. So basically, this is just a really, really, really simple attack that happens to be this app happens to be vulnerable to. So basically, anybody within Bluetooth range would be able to man in the middle attack your connection with a friend or whatnot. So again, this is when the real Bob shows up, you know, he doesn't know what's going on and he can't see the previous messages because that's how it works. So anyways, I wanted to point this out. I thought that it was at least a good little write-up. Please go check it out. Go give it a read. I think that one of the things I wanted to point out here was in all of this, these problems are completely avoidable. We have battle-tested protocols, which is really, really cool to know. One of my favorites here is the Signal protocol. If you guys don't know the Signal protocol, it's one of my favorites. One of the reasons is because it's written in Rust. But the Signal protocol is a battle-tested capability snob. Snob, you're absolutely right. Signal protocol is awesome. I don't know why Automod got you. I mean, I could tell you why. I'm not going to go into it. That was dumb. So the Signal protocol is awesome, but there's also the noise protocol framework. You know, I'm going to be fair and call out all of these, which is a modern, flexible framework for secure communication. OTR, again, another messaging protocol. And there's other decentralized solutions that already exist. Now, these do exist on top of the internet. So it felt like Jack Dorsey really just wanted to message people that are inside of his house, because that's how far Bluetooth Low Energy actually works effectively. But, you know, if you wanted to securely message people that are decentralized, there are options out there that have proven track records and security audits. I do love Signal. It's not necessarily decentralized, but it also has a pretty good track record. Anyways, these are out there. If you were looking at BitChat and want to also play around making your own messaging app, check out these and understand these first. Even if you want to make your own protocol for the learning experience, check out these. Check them out. Now, if you're wondering, like me, what the impact of AI is on these things, because we've obviously have a lot of AI impact here. We're talking about security and AI and that type of impact. I wanted to bring your attention to a new piece of research from METR. If you guys aren't familiar, METR, it's a research group that researches if you guys don't know what METR is, it's a model evaluation and threat research for AIs and understanding AI's impact on these things. That's what their goals are. That's what they're researching. And I've been following some of their work, and there's an interesting article that you need to see. So this is the METR. I'm going to drop this for you all. But the research that I wanted to talk about was measuring the impact of early 2025 AI on experienced open source developers' productivity. Now, I follow these things because, as you all know, I run the AI games every single year. And in that, I try to do as good of a job as one person can do to actually understand not only how to leverage AIs effectively, but also to give you guys a good standing of how good are they right now? And what are they good at? And are there differences between the different AIs? And this year is going to be slightly different as we now have much more agentic coding to do, and we're going to be testing a lot more of that as well. And so we're probably going to have to do 4 days no matter what, even though it's usually 3 days. But that being said, they released something, and I'd like to talk about it really quickly with you all. So they were trying to measure the actual impact, and they did a survey where basically they paid these open source software engineers $150 per hour to be part of this. And they basically broke out 250 tasks, I believe. Let's see. 16 developers, 246 tasks in large, complex open source projects. So basically, if you want to break it down, we can go into the full paper if you guys want to go into the full paper. Yeah, the full paper is here. I gave you guys the study here. If you guys want to look at the full paper, definitely go and you can give it a check here. But I'm just going to talk high-level overview with you all right now. Obviously, if you're talking about how valid it is, 250 tasks is not that many, and 16 developers is not that wide of a net. But I actually like how they were a little bit focused. They got experience, so people that had 5 years of experience on the project. I think that was really good. It set a baseline because if you got too many people in there with varying levels of experience, that would actually be hard to figure out the differences in people. So all these people should actually have a lot of experience in the project. So 5 years of experience in the project. They also took projects that had more than 1 million lines. So again, trying to keep the projects the same as well. So what I'm saying here is there's obviously more to do in this area, but it was a cool test. And I think that it probably has a little bit of validity if you're an experienced user of the code base, which I think is important because maybe you're not an experienced user of the code base. Is this different? Very possibly. Very possibly. So while coding agentic benchmarks have proven useful, so this is where I don't think they've been useful. I think this is why METR and people like myself have come up with other things instead of the SWE bench, because the SWE bench kind of sucks. It's gamed, the data sets are used in training, there's overfit, and it's just not great. So yeah, one reason we're interested in evaluating AI impact in the wild is better understand AI impact on AI R&D itself, which may pose significant risk. For example, extremely rapid AI progress could lead to breakdowns in oversight or safeguards. This is why I bring it up right after talking about the identity problems here, is we're kind of seeing that circular security risk and tying it all together. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is the code you check in is code you're validating that you did as well as you could do. Now, we're not all security buffs, obviously, but there's something to be said for making sure when you check code in that you know what that code is, and making sure that happens. So, yeah. So anyways, that's what they did. I kind of already explained it. They primarily used Cursor when they were doing this with Claude 3.5 and 3.7 Sonnet. And you can go read more of the details. And if you'd like to join me for the AI games later this year, that's what we're doing. We're testing exactly this. That being said, I'm actually doing a call to arms. I need some people. There's some things for the AI games that's going to take about 8 hours of your time. And I'm going to need a bunch of engineers. And I say a bunch of engineers, maybe about 5 to 10 engineers with 5+ years of experience, and 5 to 10 engineers with less than 5 years of experience. Yeah. So if you'd like to do that, join the Discord. There'll be a link in the description of this video. And yeah. I don't know how well I do with. It was a little random and hit and miss. It's not a very good video, I don't feel like. Like a little YouTube bite. Oh well, I'm learning. I'm trying to make them more streamlined, more focused, give more detail, but that was kind of like, was it about BitChat? It wasn't really about BitChat. Was it about AI security as a whole? I don't even know what title to make that. I should have thought about that one more. I was a little pressed for time, but alas, yesterday did not go as planned for me. Let me tell you about that. Yesterday did not go as planned for me. I had to go. My wife's car is still somewhere remote. I gotta figure that out today. All right, let's talk about Kubernetes 2.0. I know you all are very excited about Kubernetes 2.0. Kubernetes 2.0 is closer than you might think. And this all stems from, we have an ad break. Let's wait for that. How's everyone doing? We have an ad break. I am about as musically talented as a rhinoceros in a china shop. Which I know has nothing to do with music, and that's about as musically talented as I am. I can't even make a good music comparison. Once I touched a guitar, it never sounded the same afterwards. I didn't actually break a guitar. Can you do the hand under your arm thing? I don't know what this. Is this something I don't understand? Oh, fart sounds. No, I can't do that. Sorry. I mean, I probably could. I've never tried. Or move to Europe. There we go. I just need to move to Europe. Although, even if I streamed from Europe, that wouldn't save the people that were here. It doesn't really matter where I'm at. Well, it was so junior high school of you. I had no idea what you were talking about. Absolutely none. Scott B is in Canada. Very nice. Very nice. Ooh, writing Elixir capability is not very nice. Very nice. I am not smart enough for one to write Elixir. I'm not smart enough to write software. I'm pretty sure. That's what I've learned in my years of experience writing software, is that I am probably not smart enough to be writing software. All right. Fantastic. Ads are done. What everybody's been waiting for. Are you ready for Kubernetes 2.0? Did it take you long enough to learn Kubernetes 1? Well, if you're ready for Kubernetes 2.0, it might be closer than you think. Now, I saw this. I think this is such an overreach, but we're going to cover it. We got access to the beta, broke a few clusters, and lived to tell the tale. Now, this is all behind a paywall that, I can only read up to this point. I don't know if they actually got access to Kubernetes 2 and what that means. What I can say is, last Thursday, someone posted a blurry dashboard photo on our Kubernetes and deleted it 17 minutes later. I tried to go back through the Wayback Machine and find this blurry post. I wasn't able to do that, but supposedly, this blurry post had this: K8s to deploy predict traffic equals 5 minutes. Just one clean command, right? Now, I have to say that, what does it mean? What does it mean? First, you can post whatever you like on Reddit. That's kind of what you get to post. Second, who's making K8s 2? Because I haven't seen anything from the cloud native people who actually own the trademark for Kubernetes and stuff around that. So really, somebody else can't be creating a K8s 2 if it's not the cloud native people. And so I don't actually know if this is not just clickbait. I'm using it for clickbait, absolutely. But this actually brings up some really good things, because what people struggle with Kubernetes isn't the things that I struggled with Kubernetes, or aren't the things that I would change. I've talked a long time about the things that I would change about the underlying architecture and how it does things. And those weren't what people were talking about. People were talking about YAML, and I get it. I dislike YAML. This person says, our incident report literally said engineers spent more time linting YAML than writing business logic. And that extra X is what took them down last year. I guess 200 pods went down because they accidentally put an extra X. The thing is, to me, there's actually a lot of ways to prevent this from happening. This right here is very simple to prevent from happening in your production clusters. And so that being said, it's never actually been that big of a deal to me. Now I get it. I don't love YAML. I'll be the first person to say that I would love to have the configuration as code, because it's easier to lint. It's easier to statically check. It's easier to run actual logic on to verify correctness. So I love configuration as code and not YAML. So I would love to see that. I think you can do that without a Kubernetes 2.0. That's not a big enough thing. Now, there's also a Nomad. I didn't realize this, and I'm behind. Has introduced an AI-based scheduler. I think this sounds kind of like hogwash, but we're going to have to go test it out. An AI-based scheduler. Schedulers have very simple jobs. There's no reason to put AI. This sounds like putting AI in a Wordle game. I might have been guilty about this. Putting AI in a Wordle game because AI is the cool thing, and really all you needed is a word list. So an AI-based scheduler to me sounds like what's the point, right? We'll talk about what a scheduler is, and then there's some other stuff that can happen. Kubernetes has a scheduler itself. You can replace the scheduler. That's not just the only thing it does. It's a workload orchestration tool. So, maybe there's parts where AI could be useful. We're definitely going to have to check this out and understand it better. Some say it stole 30% of Kubernetes user base in under a year. I don't know any of this to be true. I can't verify any of this. What are your thoughts? Now, before we move on, I want you to leave a comment or a little chat about what your biggest challenge with Kubernetes is today. Because I'm going to make some videos on how you can make those things easier today. You don't have to worry about Kubernetes 2.0 killing YAML. It's fine. There's people that aren't even using YAML with Kubernetes today. Today, people aren't using YAML. You don't need Kubernetes 2.0. So, I'm going to give about a minute. Leave what you struggle with the most. So, because I knew that you guys would not give me anything on stream because the only thing you guys do is juvenile armpit jokes, I actually went out and found what other people were saying about what they find difficult and what they would prefer in the future. And I wanted to give just a few thoughts and perspectives on those topics, and let's dig into it. Okay, so here is just some general complaints. But here is what they would put in Kubernetes 2.0. Ditch YAML for HCL. Now, I will happily ditch YAML. Let's not do HCL. There's, I would rather go pickle. Like, literally would rather go pickle than HCL. There are cool things with HCL, but yeah. Never had a need for K8s. Biggest reason I don't like K8s, there is no clear, easy, and built-in way to simply access an open port on a container without having to do a weird proxy or stuff through implementing. Ingress, actually, Veggie, this is a great example. There is actually a simple way to do a node port, which is just opening a port on a container. And it's actually simple, super simple. So if you're having trouble with that, let me help you. You don't have to do... Now, if you're running in a cloud, the load balancer might actually be easier. But if you have SSH access to the node, you can literally just hit it. You can expose it right there. So let me show you how to do that. These are the questions. These are the things I want to know because I can help. Why don't they seem helpful? They do exactly what you're asking for. A built-in way to simply access an open port on a container. That's literally what they do. They map a port on the container to a port on the machine. And not only is it on that machine, it's on every machine. So you can hit any machine in that cluster on that specific port and access that thing. Super powerful, and makes it super easy. You don't even, if you had 4 nodes in it, you don't even need to know what node it's on. So you just opened a port and you can access it. That's literally what you can do with Kubernetes too. Effectively. You just learned the Docker command. Where you can look, you can do this with Kubernetes as well. You can actually proxy with the Kubernetes thing, just like you can. You're right that it's a little bit more complicated. That's a little bit of the nature of the beast, because what you're talking about is Docker is on one single machine. It doesn't have to think about multiple machines. A little nature of the beastie, but yeah. But yeah, keep them coming. We can definitely do stuff on here. Absolutely. Like I said, a little nature of the beastie. You could do it in 2 commands though, if you know the Kubernetes CLI pretty well. You can create that thing, that pod, and you can make a service to it to expose it. 2 commands. Just one more command than the Docker one. Not actually difficult, but it's fine. Keep the comments coming of things that you have trouble with. We'll absolutely cover them. All right, there's a lot of reasons to ditch the YAML. There's a lot of reasons to ditch the YAML, and I fully support ditching YAML. HCL is probably fine. I didn't actually know if it got relicensed with all the rest of its stuff. It didn't. It got relicensed to the Mozilla public license. So that's good. It's good. So they could absolutely use HCL, although I know that Kubernetes doesn't usually use that license. A lot of times they look for the Apache or MIT license. So yeah, really they look for the Apache license. They accept the MIT from what I've seen. So the Mozilla license would be a little bit out of the norm, but they have made an exception. And I told you guys that was actually a big deal. And this is why, because it paves the way for other people to get those types of exceptions as well. Anyhow, HCL is fine. Wouldn't be my first choice. Again, pickle. But yeah, these are actually good reasons that you want HCL. There's actually things out there that you can use today that aren't HCL that you can use in place. JSONNet is one of the ones that will come top of mind. There's other things like JSONNet, like Pickle, that you can use today that you're going to actually be able to do this type of verification on. So those are really cool, and why a lot of people use them. I actually have friends in the industry that use some of these. If you guys want them to come on in, I believe I could get some of the people from Grafana. I could reach out to them, some of the people I know at Grafana, about the different ways that you can do this a little bit safer than just plain YAML. So absolutely. And so I think people are really feeling it. All right. Allow etcd swap out. I think this is a really interesting thing. Yeah. I was actually going to point out Kine, but they are a point out Kine here. They want to make Kine a official repository or an official Kubernetes thing because they just want it to be how Kubernetes connects to things. I don't know that this is a big deal, honestly, because it's just the Kubernetes API, and most people don't actually want the ability to do this. If you guys do want the ability to do this, I actually did a project. I updated Kine to use Aerospike. I think it would be really cool to see how far Kubernetes could scale leveraging Aerospike as its database. I think that would be really cool, but that would be really expensive because Aerospike can scale to massive scale. So it'd be pretty expensive. So that's what somebody else is also asking for, is the ability to swap out etcd. Has that been a big problem for people? Have people really wanted this? Beyond Helm, I cannot applaud this better. Helm is a temporary hack. Helm is rough. I actually don't use Helm most of the time. I rather use plain Kubernetes files and customize than I would Helm. Helm too often restricts me too much or not enough, and generally just gets in the way and is another layer of abstraction on top of the underlying YAML files. And I find it not fun. I don't love Helm. So that being said, there are a lot of people that love Helm, and if you're one of those Helm loving people, go for it. Just hasn't been me. So that is what this person said as far as what they would do. They go into what their glorious package system they would design would look like. I actually don't know what a package system for Kubernetes or the like, a distributed thing like that would look like, honestly. Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm smart enough for that. So yeah, let me know. What would you guys like to see in a Kubernetes 2.0? Yeah, learning Kubernetes without having like 4 machines can be tedious, and what's the point? If you're running on one machine, there's no reason to run Kubernetes. Like, really, there's no reason to run Kubernetes. It's not for one machine. It's not for even a team of people. The reason to run Kubernetes is I go over this over and over, and I need to just make a video. The reason to run Kubernetes is because you want multiple teams to be able to deploy independently to the same environment. You want multiple teams. You want to be able to manage your teams in smaller cells of teams. You've gotten your organization to a large enough thing to do that. Before that, Elastic Beanstalk is fine. Elastic Beanstalk is not great, but it's actually fine and it does amazing things for you. If you're just a single team deploying a single thing or even 3 things, Elastic Beanstalk is amazing. The only reason you start to reach for Kubernetes is because you want to manage smaller teams. You can't manage 500 engineers, and you want to break them into smaller teams and give them a place to continuously deploy to. If that's what you're trying to solve, Kubernetes is amazing. If you're not trying to solve that, stop trying to use Kubernetes. Never used containerization? Bold. You're either like a hard Mac user that just does like iOS, or before you judge me, NixOS. You're one or the other. You're a hard Mac user or you're NixOS. One or the other. I don't know which one. It's impossible to tell, but you're one of those two. I do like containers. Now, I do understand what people like about Nix. I actually do understand what people like about Nix. I think Nix's biggest problem is it's too complicated. It's like, look, there are people with an IQ above 100 that also program. Those people exist, and for them, Nix is great. But for your average idiot like me, Nix has taken a lot of work to understand. Nix is a huge ecosystem with multiple parts, and one of them is even their own language, which is like Python-ish. Again, Nix is huge, and it's really complicated. And I understand why it would be good, but when you have that sub 100 IQ, you gotta swing at the things you can actually hit. That's a little high. It's a little high for some of us. It's kind of like Emacs with pictures. Yeah, it's NixOS, no doubt. Jano hasn't responded about what they use, but I'm guessing it's NixOS. I'm guessing. Nix is a big impedance mismatch with the rest of the ecosystem. I don't know. I honestly don't know. And I need to learn it better. And I keep trying to do it like one weekend every 6 weeks or something where I play around with it, and like I always end up just relearning the stuff that I learned and never making true progress. So maybe it's partially on me. I don't know what the true problem. I feel like I would have to figure out Nix first, then figure it like and to know what its problem is. But like, yeah, it's I don't know. I like the idea of Nix. I understand the desire of it. And Nix test seems really powerful. Like we did that little Nix test stuff with the Null DB, which looks really powerful. It's so hard to use properly. It's so hard to understand exactly what's going on. Yeah. I do like the Emacs with pictures. That's fantastic. Has your file system lost its luster? Are you looking to bring new life to your file system? Well, if today you're looking to bring that luster back to your file system, there's some big news hitting the open source community. If you don't know what Lustre is a file system that is open source, extremely parallel, and supports many requirements of leadership class HPC solution environment. I don't know if you run at super scale, but if you have run at this mega scale that a lot of people do, you might know what Lustre is. You might know what Lustre is. Now, I don't think a lot of people actually run at the scale to have a 50 petabyte file system. Some people, though, might. Now, I actually don't know exactly how Lustre works. I actually want to dig into it more. I've been reading up what I'm on page 14. I'm not very far. Page 14 of, let's see, 59 pages of understanding Lustre internals, the second edition. I'm on page 15, which, I mean, to be fair, it starts on page 10. So I'm 5 pages in. Okay. 4 pages in. I am not super familiar, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly how Lustre works, but I think it's going to be a super good learning experience for me as I go through this. But what is the big news in Lustre? Well, as many of you probably know by now, Azure and AWS already support the Lustre file system on their system. And as all good little brothers do, Google Cloud had to follow suit. They were like, look at my big brothers. Look at what they're doing. This is amazing. They can support massive 50 petabyte file systems. I want to do that. I want to be like him. Look, I'm a younger brother. I know how it is like. I know how it feels. And this is exactly what Google did. So now, on all of your clouds, starting today, from Google Cloud to AWS and Azure, if you want to use the highly performant petabyte scale file system Lustre, you can, which is really, really cool. So go out, give it a check. And if that's not interesting to you, when I'm done reading that paper and can explain it at like a 5-year-old level, not a 5th grader, 5-year-old, younger, kindergarten level, I'll give a brief overview of how the Lustre file system works, if it's possible to give a brief overview of it. Anyways, that's super cool, and I hope that helps somebody if you're on GCP, for the 5 people running on GCP. Okay. The developers did a stream on how to develop for it on the Rubber Duck Engineering channel. Oh, that's really cool. I'm less interested in how to develop for it as I am. I mean, that's interesting. And if you capability stop, feel free to drop a link to that. I'm more interested in how it does what it does. Obviously, I could jump into the code, but that's going to take forever. I am just reading their white paper. Like, that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to report back when I'm get a close understanding. If somebody knows one of them and they would love to join me on stream and help me understand it, I would love that. They show off how it works. Oh, cool. Cool. Drop that link. That would be really awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. The last thing that I wanted to go over, I think that I did a poor job of explaining what happened with Cursor. And I wanted to do a better job. So I was going to do that. And then I will probably not get any time to code this morning. But we'll see about tomorrow. I think the delivery thing said, let me see. Let me pop it up over here. I think it has my home address on it, so I'm going to try not to dox myself. I think they said that they were like, hey, they just casually dropped that, like, hey, we're going to deliver it at 5:30 in the morning. Like, when does somebody casually drop that we're just gonna, let's see, estimated delivery date, Thursday, 5:45 a.m. Really? This is 5:45. So I might be up tomorrow. So I might bust out a little coding tomorrow since I'm not getting to any today. If you guys especially like these morning streams for me. Okay. Let's jump into this. So thank you everybody for joining. I wanted to talk really quickly about what happened with Cursor because I don't think I did a good job of explaining it the first time. And I wanted to cycle back and go over everything that I know because there's more to understand here than just the changes to Cursor. But I wanted to actually show off the actual changes and also what it costs to run these ChatGPT models or any of these models and build a little bit better understanding around that. So let's first talk about what happened with Cursor. Cursor, a little while ago, released this, updates to Ultra and Pro. In collaboration with the model providers, we are introducing a $200 a month tier for power users. I actually reported this in the news and completely missed the major changes because it wasn't apparent to me. While the vast majority of Cursor users are well served by our Pro plan, this change was highly requested by power users seeking more predictability than usage-based pricing would offer. I thought that this $200 a month plan was actually giving more options and not actually nerfing the Pro plan as far as I understood. I thought the Pro plan was still going to allow you to use those other models at 100%. But the fact of the matter is it's not anymore. It's going to cap you out at $20 of API usage. But what is $20 of API usage look like? Well, that's actually a really good question. I haven't used my Cursor account in July, except for just this last week. And I vibe coded a small little app to just understand what $20 is going to get you. So we're going to cover that, but we're also going to cover exactly how you can avoid getting charged extra if you're using the Pro plan and want to still leverage it, how you can continue to use this unlimited access to the auto model. Now, I want to put this out here is they released this clarifying our pricing, and they make it sound like this is the original post. This post was updated. You can actually go to the Wayback Machine. This was not worded the exact same. I do not like this. If you want to release a blog post and you want to release an update to it, you make an update here. You make an update later down. You make a clarifying post. You don't go and change it and make people look on the Wayback Machine. It's not a big deal. They just changed the wording and made sure to call out this with the auto model. But yeah, it definitely is not the greatest thing to go do. Anyhow, let's talk about what this actually does, and then let's talk about AI models and how expensive they're getting and why I think Cursor had to do this more than they wanted to do this. So, if you're wanting to know how much you used, it's actually really difficult in Cursor. I don't see anything here to tell me how close I am to hitting a usage limit. Because I do have a usage limit, and this has some stuff, but this is literally just lines of agent edits. So we have 30,000 lines, and this includes when it goes back and edits it. So it's not like I have a 30,000 line program. I would guess that the ending thing is 2,000 or 3,000 lines. And you could see 1, 2, 3, 4 days. It's about 4 days of vibe coding for about 30 minutes. So in these 4 days, I leverage basically all my credits, and you can see the usage here. Now, what you have to do is you have to go into usage. Now, it's still not evidently clear. You see here, all of these are included. So in these 4 days, I actually switched to vibe coding because I was running out of credits. So I actually had to go switch to the auto model, and all of these are auto models. So there's a lot of stuff that was done with the auto model that I wasn't actually charged for. And you can see these right here are the ones that I was actually charged for, these Claude 4 Sonnet. And this is important because I want you to see how much this was. This was one little day, July 14th. So we can actually go and look for July 14th usage. Back over here in our overview, our July 14th was this day right here. This was the not auto model. How much of my $20 credit did this cost? Well, it's very hard to find. It's very hard to find. And you have to understand that this is clickable. Does it look clickable? Wait, is this me? Okay, maybe it's a little bit me. This is clickable, which I guess there's an arrow here. This is your usage here. That little usage was $10. Remember, you get $20. You get $20. Of the 4 days, the least amount of work done was when I selected one right here. This was the sonnet. And I blew through those credits. So basically, moral of the story is if you want to select a model very specifically and leverage that one, if you have a workflow that is based on that, you need to understand you don't get a whole lot of credits. Now, what is auto mode? I wanted to be clear so you guys understood how to do this. I've said that I think Cursor is one of the best ones out there, and I wanted you guys to see how this take effect. So here, if you're in auto mode, this is still unlimited. You get to ask as much. The thing with auto mode, and the thing that you'll find out, is it's kind of dented. Because they use cheaper models in the back end, they make cheaper requests, and you will butt your head against it time and time again. It's a little dented. They don't use thinking models when they don't have to use thinking models. And only once you've told it over and over and over again that it's wrong on something, will it start to use a thinking model and get the thing correct. Now, if you want to get around that, you unclick this and you can select your Claude 4 Sonnet thinking model. Now, you don't get a whole lot of questions with this before you break your budget. You get your $20 budget. You can't go into max mode because that costs money. More money. So if you're wanting to just use it and you're okay with it being a little more dented, just leave it in auto mode. And you only switch over when you really need the power of one of those bigger ones. Because as you can see, the credits do not go very far. If you are wondering, of your $20 included credits, this is how you can see what you're using. Now, interestingly here, I have charges for the auto mode, which is confusing to me. Now, don't get me wrong, I've done a lot through the auto mode, but I thought it was unlimited, but I have charges for it. I'm very upset with Cursor with this because it's just added a ton of confusion and is not clear. My understanding from here is that we're also happy to report that we're rolling out changes this week to make our Pro plan more generous. By default, the Pro plan will move from request limits to compute limits. All users will get $20 of model inference at API prices per month. Concurrent with this change, we're rolling out unlimited access to the auto model and lifting all limits on tool calls. I don't know what this means. Because now, while it's super cheap, I don't know what it means, because in 4 days of vibe coding, I have $4 more. It might be time to give up Cursor. It might be priced out of its usefulness. Sadly. Now, one thing I wanted to say why I think they're going this way. Is I wanted to talk about pricing. I played around with pricing a little bit to try to understand it a little bit better and how these models work in these thinking scenarios. I wanted to point out here, so I actually played around in ChatGPT or in the API, and I wanted to see how many tokens something leveraged. And so I did 4.1, just the regular 4.1, not the mini, not the micro or whatnot, just 4.1. And 4.1 used 951 tokens to respond. Okay, not a whole lot. Now, I actually struggled with this to use O3. You had to verify. It was dumb. Let's talk O1. I used O1 and asked it the same thing, O1 Pro. O1 Pro is a thinking model. Now, while you'll see that everything was the same from the developer message that we input, you're an expert in this. And then the question is, what is a P2P network? The number of tokens is astronomically higher. 2,500 versus 951. So the number of tokens increased. Okay. I finally got O1. Or I finally got O3 as well. O3 actually used fewer tokens, which is cool, at 1,800. And then I played around with some settings with this to see if it changed a whole lot. It didn't change a whole lot. The more you had it think, it actually prompted itself more. And you could actually ask it to prompt itself, and it would prompt itself even more. But you could do some stuff. So there's definitely some cost optimization you could do with it. But the other thing that I wanted to point out with this is, let's talk about O3 pricing. O3 pricing is $2 for 1 million tokens and $8 for 1 million out. We're not going to talk about cached input and whatnot, cached input and cached output, although you can't do cached output for O3, but some of them allow you to do that, which is cheaper. Let's talk about 4.1. 4.1 is $2 for a million tokens in and $8 for a million tokens out. So it's the same price as 0.3, but it used less tokens to give a response. More than half. You're talking about 1,800 to 2,500 versus 500 to 750 was, I think, the averages for these. Not only that, if you can use these other ones, these ones here, these are the ones that I use for a lot of my projects, like the 4.1 mini, where you're talking 40 cents for a million tokens and $1.60 for a million tokens. Or right now, my current favorite is the 4.1 nano that we use for a lot of stuff for like the automation and stuff, which it's a 10 cents for a million tokens. These are cheap. These, if you can use them and leverage them effectively, are cheap. These are getting more expensive. Not only do they output more tokens, each token costs more as well. So that's what happened with Cursor. I'm going to continue watching it. I hope that was a good explanation. I hope that helped people understand what's going on. I think that's why they're upping their price. It's kind of expensive to run. You're talking about a really simple request. What is a P2P network? 2,000 tokens. The number of words out wasn't a ton. We can actually look at that. I have this up. So here's an 0.3. Here's an 0.3. Let's see. Let's count. Do a word count. It's not a ton of words. I didn't do a word count side by side. Not that more is better per se. 1 second. Let me not dox myself. Docs.google.com. All right. How do I do word count? So this is, yeah, we're good here. All right, 5 pages, 1,032 words. Okay, so that was our 2,500 credits or tokens. Let me just do that again with the other one. You guys should work good here now. And let's do this with like for a mini, you're super advanced. What is a P2P network? Now remember, this one right here, this model right here is cheap. 10 cents per million input tokens. 10 cents. It actually gave 1,000 output tokens, which is way more than the slightly bigger one, which was at like 700. That's interesting. Nope, let's not do that. Let's do that. Let's do word count. So 600 words output versus 1,000. Yep. I don't know the contents. I don't know, if this one's better or if this one's better. I couldn't tell you that. Couldn't tell you which one's better. The point is, one is way more expensive, a magnitude more expensive. And these models seem to keep getting more and more expensive. And as that goes and you use the thinking ones, I know that for coding, the thinking ones do a lot better when I use them with Cursor. But I also understand that they're a lot more expensive. $8 for a million tokens. We're talking $8 for 1 million tokens versus 10 cents for 1 million tokens. Or $2 for input. And output, which is the thing that really gets up there, you know, $8 for 1 million tokens versus 40 cents for 1 million. It really starts to get expensive. So I feel like this is what happened to Cursor. Yeah. Zed, I do love Zed. I do absolutely love Zed. If people don't know what Zed is probably my favorite graphical user interface that if I wasn't learning Vim, I would probably use Zed. I like Zed quite a bit. Zed is probably my favorite. Yeah, it is absolutely my favorite. I like Zed. I want to get them on a call. Scott B, appreciate that while it lasts. Appreciate that. I can almost guarantee you that they won't give away Claude Sonnet 4 on a free tier for very long. So if people don't know, I don't use it. Maybe once I get rid of my Claude subscription, not Claude, Cursor subscription, maybe I'll give it a try. There is an AI for Zed. Actually, let me make sure I don't dox myself. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to dox myself anyways. All right. So there is basic you get 50 prompts, and then there's this usage-based spending that you can do. And you can upgrade. It's $20 a month, 500 prompts per month, usage-based billing beyond 500. This makes sense to me. Basically, once you start costing them money, they start billing you for usage. Makes sense to me. On the free tier, you get 2,000 edit predictions. Yeah, it is what it is. The nice thing is, if I don't know, you were to say let's say you were going to get a highly advanced AI computer, like Project Digits. I haven't gotten selected yet. And you wanted to run a model locally. The really cool thing is all of this stuff that they use here, all of the stuff they use here in Zed, you can actually hook up to a local thing and not have to pay for that, which is really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Hasn't happened yet. I haven't gotten it yet, but when it happens. All right, let's how I know I was kind of excited about some of those. I'm excited about delivering those, and then I always feel like, and I know I'm one of my worst critics. You can ask my boss. I definitely am one of my hardest critics. I'm definitely one of my hardest critics, but I always go and I'm like, I'm gonna make a bite out of that because I was really excited, and then I'm like, I just rambled and I didn't do a very focused thing, and I didn't give a whole lot of value. Let me know how I could make some of these better. I'd love to make some more of these for you all. Yeah, let me know how I can make them better. My back hurts too. We can join a club. What's the counter at now? What counter? What counter are we? Which counter are we talking about? What counter? Oh, oh, oh. Very nice. Very nice. Sorry, I forgot we were in middle school. Twitch chat. Twitch chat. That is it's not my Twitch name either. That's just my real name. Just dox myself straight there. Oh yeah, Merrick counts as my real name. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. Don't worry. Don't worry. No. Fantastic. Fantastic. You thought it was a silly username? Oh, fantastic. No, it's just my name. That's all. That's what my mother gave me. Oh, I know you would not believe that I grew up in the, in the, I'm not gonna say the South, really close to the South in the U.S. It's not a common name here. Very much not a common name. Yeah. Oh, my mother is one of the mothers of all times. She is definitely one of the mothers. All right, that is going to be it for me today. We're gonna go raid somebody who does functional programming. I know they're smarter than I am. You're gonna have to get over that. I hope you guys. They're doing some game dev in ClojureScript, so way out of my league. I know, scary stuff. You might learn something if you are open to it. We're going to do that, and then I've got to go and get to work. It was great having you all here. Let me know how I can make these better. I know that I could make them way better. I'm working on it. I want to cover these topics. I want to make them fun, entertaining, as well as informative. So I'm going to work on doing it. I have a ton of my own things to do to make them better. Like I said, I'm a pretty hard critic on myself. But I would love your guys' thoughts. Join me on Discord if you'd like to give me those, or leave a comment in YouTube. Although YouTube is probably not watching this. Anyways, good to seeing you all. I don't know how to pronounce their name, so I'm not going to at all. Go say hello to them. Go learn a little bit of ClojureScript. Final Fantasy Tactics is fantastic, so yeah. Anyways, see you all. Have a fantastic rest of your week.